My high school soccer coach crossed a line. And when I finally spoke up and told my parents, they didn't believe me. Worse, they defended him and humiliated me publicly, all to protect his reputation. I cut them off completely, until a month later, when an email landed in their inbox that changed everything. And suddenly, they were begging me to forgive them. I've been playing soccer since I was 5, not because I loved it, but because in my family, it was practically mandatory. My mom was an all-state MVP. My dad played semi-pro. Even my younger brother made varsity as a freshman. So, by the time I joined the high school team, everyone acted like my path was already set. But here's the truth. I wasn't very good. I spent more time on the bench than on the field. I tried to improve, I really did, but something just never clicked. Still, I stayed with it. Not for the sport, but for the friendships. My teammates made me feel like I belonged. All except one person, Coach Ryder. Now I understand that coaches yell. But this was different. The way he spoke to us, especially the girls, it went beyond motivation. The way his eyes lingered during warm-ups, the way he pressured us to stay late for extra drills, and the guilt trips when we said no. It made me uncomfortable, but I didn't say anything. Not to my friends, and definitely not to my parents. After all, Coach Ryder was considered a legend. My dad once told me that if I listened to him, he could make me into someone our family could actually be proud of. So, how was I supposed to tell them that this legend made my skin crawl? The worse I played, the more he zeroed in on me. He'd call me names during practice, humiliate me in front of everyone. One day, I missed a shot and he snapped. Loud enough for the whole team to hear, he said, "You're a complete embarrassment. You should be grateful I even let you stay on this team. Maybe if you worked on those lazy legs of yours, you wouldn't be so useless." I was frozen. But then something happened I didn't expect. My teammate Sam stepped in. Calm as ever, she turned to him and said, "Talk to her like that again, and I'll personally take your whistle and bury it where we'll finally get some peace." Everyone went silent. Coach turned bright red. "Excuse me?" he barked. Sam didn't back down. "You're not excused," she said. "You're not a coach. You're a creep with a clipboard." Then he screamed, "You're both off the team!" But instead of leaving, something even more shocking happened. The other girls started walking toward us, one by one. They stood in front of me and Sam like a wall. Nobody had to say anything. I just knew. I wasn't alone. Even our quietest player, our goalie, looked Coach Ryder in the eye and said, "Maybe we should tell the counselor about your obsession with private lessons." That night, I told my parents everything, hoping they'd finally listen. But they didn't. My mom said, "Are you sure you're not just being emotional?" My dad muttered something about how people can't handle a little tough love anymore. I tried to stay calm. "I'm not calling it abuse," I said, but my mom cut me off. "We've known Coach Ryder for years. He's a professional. Maybe you just need to toughen up." And that's when I realized it didn't matter what he'd done. In their eyes, he was the expert. I was just the weak kid who couldn't take a joke. The next morning, my dad told me I needed to apologize. "Think of the college scouts," he said. "You don't want to throw everything away over a misunderstanding." I didn't argue. I just went upstairs and cried, not just because of what happened, but because I'd finally realized that no matter how hard I tried, I was never going to be enough for them. But today, everything changed. We had a team meeting after school. Without the coach. Turns out other girls had been keeping screenshots and messages. The principal had received multiple complaints. There's now an active investigation. Coach Ryder's been suspended. When I got home, my dad was waiting. "Did you talk to the principal?" he asked. I nodded. "So what's your plan to fix this?" I looked him in the eye, really looked, and said, "I'm not fixing anything. Because this was never my mess." My mom gasped, "Lindsay, don't be dramatic." But I didn't stick around to hear the rest. I walked upstairs, grabbed a bag, and started packing. I don't know where I'm going yet, but I know one thing for sure. I'm done being their disappointment, and I'm done staying quiet. If they wanted a daughter who just smiles and obeys, they were looking in the wrong place, and they could go find her somewhere else. Last I heard, my parents were actually hosting Coach Ryder at their house and demanding I return. But what I didn't know was that they were about to get a surprise that would change everything. I didn't have a long-term plan, just a backpack and the instinct to get out. I texted Sam, "Can I stay with you tonight?" Her response came fast. "Already told my mom. Guest room's yours." I waited until my parents got into one of their classic arguments in the living room, then slipped out through the back door just as it started raining. Sam's mom opened the door before I even knocked. "Come in, sweetheart," she said, pulling me into a hug. "Sam told me what's going on. You're safe here. Stay as long as you need." That night, I slept better than I had in years. No pressure, no guilt, just quiet. But it didn't last. The next morning, my phone blew up. Dozens of messages from my parents. Rage, guilt, even threats. My dad warned that if I didn't come home, he'd call the authorities. My mom said I was ripping the family apart. But the worst message came from my brother Jake. "Mom and Dad are meeting with Coach Ryder tomorrow. They want to hear his side and try to get you to take it all back. Be careful." I stared at the screen, stunned. After everything I told them, they still wanted to believe him? I showed Sam the message. Her face hardened. "You're not going back there," she said, already taking my phone. "Not while they're siding with him." Mrs. Chen, Sam's mom, overheard us and stepped in. "What's going on?" Sam filled her in. I'll never forget the look on her face, calm but fierce, just like Sam that day on the field. "Lindsay, you're staying here tonight," she said. "I'll call your parents and let them know you're safe." I nodded, grateful but still shaken. She walked into the kitchen with my phone, and I could hear only bits of the conversation. Phrases like "completely inappropriate" and "putting her at risk" cut through. When she returned, her expression said it all. "Your parents insist you need to work this out as a family," she said, complete with air quotes. "But I told them you're staying here until this cools down." That night, sleep didn't come easy. Even with my phone off, I couldn't relax. I kept seeing the image in my head. My parents sitting across from Coach Ryder, nodding along, listening to his version of things. Him spinning lies about me being too sensitive or looking for attention. By morning, it was Monday. Time to face school. Sam lent me clothes and her mom dropped us off. As we walked toward the entrance, I spotted a group of my teammates huddled by the steps. They waved us over immediately. "You okay?" Mia asked quietly. "We've been texting you." "Sorry," I said. I turned my phone off. "It's been a lot." "We heard Coach Ryder's telling people you made it all up," said Jess, another teammate. "He's saying you're trying to get him fired because he benched you." My stomach dropped. "That's not true," I said, heart pounding. "We know," Mia said quickly. "Nobody believes him." "Well," she trailed off, hesitating. I followed her gaze across the lot. My brother Jake was getting out of our dad's car. He looked over, saw me, and looked away, then rushed inside. Jess leaned in. "Jake's been talking to some of the guys on the boys' team," she said gently. "He told them you're just going through a phase, said you've always been dramatic." It felt like a punch to the chest. My own brother? Before I could even process that betrayal, the first bell rang. The rest of the day was brutal. Whispers in the halls, girls from other teams giving me dirty looks. Apparently, Coach Ryder had fans outside our family too. During lunch, I hid out in the library. I couldn't bring myself to walk into the cafeteria. I was flipping through a random book when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. The message said, "I believe you. Coach Ryder did the same thing to me 2 years ago, at Westlake High. No one believed me either. Stay strong." My hand started shaking. He'd done this before, at another school. I texted back, begging for more details, but no reply came. After school, I had my meeting with Principal Warner. It was time to give a full statement. Sam waited outside the office for me like the rock she is. Inside, Principal Warner looked tired, but focused. "Lindsay," she said, "I want you to know, we're taking this seriously. You're not the only one who's come forward." More girls had come forward. The principal told me I wasn't alone, and for the first time, I believed it. But then she hesitated. Her expression shifted. "I need to let you know," she said carefully. "I received a call from your parents this morning. They were concerned about your mental state." I blinked. "My mental state?" She continued gently. "They implied you might be exaggerating. That this might be a cry for attention, possibly tied to the pressure you feel to live up to your family's athletic legacy." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents, the people I grew up trusting, were trying to discredit me to the principal. I felt my face go hot, but my voice stayed calm. "That's not true," I said. "I'm not making any of this up. You can ask any of the girls on the team." Principal Warner nodded. "I have. Their accounts match yours. That's why we're taking this seriously. But your parents also said you ran away." "I didn't run away," I said. "I'm staying with a friend. I didn't feel safe at home after they defended Coach Ryder." That caught her off guard. She raised her eyebrows and jotted something down on her notepad. The rest of the meeting was straightforward. I gave my full statement. She recorded it. I signed some paperwork, and then I left. Sam was waiting outside, frowning at her phone. "You need to see this," she said and handed it to me. It was a public Facebook post from my mom. "We're heartbroken. Our daughter has made harmful accusations against a respected coach rather than accept constructive feedback. It's a tough time. Mental health struggles are real, and parenting isn't easy. Please keep us in your prayers." Dozens of comments followed. "She's always been sensitive," my aunt had written. "Sending love." One of my dad's old golf buddies chimed in with, "Kids these days can't take discipline. Stay strong." I stared at the screen, trembling. They weren't just taking his side. They were making me look unstable. In public. For everyone to see. I handed the phone back to Sam. "They're not just in denial," I whispered. "They're monsters." "They can't handle the fact they trusted someone who wasn't who they thought," Sam said. "So instead of facing it, they're blaming you." That night, I got 3 anonymous messages from different numbers. Each told a similar story. One girl said Coach Ryder had been the same way at his last school. Another said her sister had him as a coach at a summer camp. The third was from a volleyball player at our school. She said he made inappropriate comments when subbing for their coach last year. I showed them to Sam and her mom. Mrs. Chen told me to send everything to Principal Warner, so I did. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about me. He'd been doing this for years. By Tuesday, things got worse. I was pulled from second period, called to the office. Waiting there was my dad, and a woman in a gray suit who introduced herself as the district attorney for the school board. Principal Warner looked cautious. "Your father has expressed concerns about your current living situation," she said. Before she could explain, my dad cut in. "This ends now, Lindsay. You're coming home today." The attorney calmly stepped in. "As I was saying, under state law, Lindsay is 17. She is not considered a runaway, and she's staying in a safe, known location. Legally, she is not required to return home." My dad's face turned red. "She's my daughter. You can't keep her from her family." I kept my voice steady. "I'm staying at Sam's. Her parents know. I'm attending school. I'm safe. This isn't about rebellion. It's about not being ignored anymore." "You're throwing away your future over a few hurt feelings," he snapped. "Coach Ryder was just trying to push you to succeed." Principal Warner spoke up. "Mr. Thompson, I need you to know, we've received multiple reports about Coach Ryder. This isn't just Lindsay." My dad rolled his eyes. "Teen girls teaming up. They probably rehearsed their stories." The attorney looked at him flatly. "Actually, these reports go back several years, and they involve other schools as well." That shut him down. The meeting ended unresolved. I wasn't going home, and legally, they couldn't make me. As I turned to leave, my dad grabbed my arm. "Your mother is devastated," he hissed. "Is this what you wanted? To tear this family apart?" I pulled my arm back. "You tore it apart when you chose him over me." The rest of the week blurred together. Moments of fear, moments of quiet triumph. On Wednesday, I heard the school board had scheduled a public hearing for Monday, an open meeting where students, parents, and staff could come forward and speak about everything. And then on Thursday, Jake found me in the hallway between classes. He looked unsure, shifting nervously as he blocked my path. "Mom and Dad want you to come home," he said finally. "They're willing to move past all of this. If you just admit you overreacted." "Overreacted?" I repeated, staring at him. "Jake, you were there. You saw what he did to me." "He's just a coach, Lindsay. Coaches yell. It's part of sports." That's what Jake said to me. "It wasn't just yelling," I replied, my voice sharp. "What about the comments? The way he looked at us?" Jake shifted uncomfortably. "Dad says you're exaggerating, that you're just upset because you can't take criticism." I stared at him. "And you believe that?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," he muttered. "But I do know this family's falling apart. And it started when you ran away." I shook my head. "No, Jake. It started when Mom and Dad decided their soccer dreams mattered more than my safety." He had no answer. Just walked away, and when I looked around, I realized we'd drawn a small crowd. Great. More whispers. More fuel for the rumor mill. By Friday, things somehow got worse. Someone, and I had a pretty good idea who, leaked parts of my confidential statement to the school board. But not the full story. Just cherry-picked lines, stripped of context, making it seem like I was whining about tough training instead of reporting misconduct. Screenshots spread fast through student group chats. Some people were kind, others called me soft, too sensitive, and worse. The soccer girls closed ranks around me, walking with me between classes and sitting with me at lunch like a shield. But the damage had already been done. That afternoon, I got a message from my mom that sent a chill through me. "We're ready to move forward as a family. Come home for dinner Sunday night, just you, me, and Dad. We miss you." It felt too polite, too rehearsed. After days of public smears and threats, I showed Sam. "It's a setup," she said immediately. "They're going to ambush you. Try to make you backpedal before the school board meeting." I wasn't sure, until I got a text from Jake an hour later. "Don't come home Sunday. Coach Ryder might stop by. They think they can mediate between you two." My stomach dropped. They were still protecting him. I sent Jake's warning to Principal Warner. She responded almost instantly. "This is extremely inappropriate. I'll be contacting your parents directly." That night, I got another anonymous text. "I heard you're speaking Monday. Be careful. Coach Ryder has allies on the board. They buried my complaint last year." The weekend was a blur of anxiety. I stayed at Sam's house flinching every time my phone buzzed. My parents kept messaging. One moment they were pleading, "We just want to talk." The next, it was guilt and veiled threats. "You're making choices you'll regret for life." On Saturday night, Mrs. Chen sat me down in the kitchen, serious. "Your father called," she said. "He threatened to file a police report accusing us of harboring a runaway if you don't come home tomorrow." I froze. "Can he do that?" She shook her head. "Not successfully. You're 17. You've told the school where you are. We've made it clear you're here with our support." She hesitated. "But there's more. He said he might contact Sam's college recruiter. Question her character." I felt sick. Now they were targeting Sam's future for helping me. "I can leave," I said. "I won't risk—" "No," Mrs. Chen interrupted, firm. "That's exactly what they want, to isolate you. Sam's future is secure and your father's threats are empty, but you deserve to know the lengths they're willing to go." Sunday morning, I woke to find our My Stand with Coach Ryder trending locally. Someone had launched a social media campaign in his defense, photos of people in jerseys holding signs supporting him. And then I saw it. A photo of my parents standing proudly in front of our house, with Coach Ryder, all smiling. My mom had her arm around him like he was family. The caption read, "Backing a coach who brings out the best in our kids. The Thompson family knows real coaching isn't always easy. Tough love is still love." I dropped my phone. It clattered across the floor. Then I just sobbed. They were using my name, our family name, to publicly support the man who made me feel unsafe. It was the deepest betrayal yet. Sam found me curled up on the guest bed and said nothing. She just sat next to me and rubbed my back until I could breathe again. "I can't do it," I whispered. "I can't go to that meeting. Everyone's already chosen sides." "Not everyone," she said gently. "Check your email." I picked up my phone and opened my inbox. It was full. Dozens of messages from classmates, teammates, even parents I barely knew. They'd seen the campaign. They wanted me to know they believed me. Some said they'd be speaking too. And then, one email caught my eye. "Jake, I'm sorry. I didn't know how bad it was. Mom and Dad have lost it. I'll be at the meeting." Sunday night, I barely slept. I kept rehearsing what I'd say. What if no one believed me? What if I was shouted down? What if my parents made a scene? By the time Monday morning arrived, I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I knew this. I was done being silent. I couldn't concentrate on a single word the teacher said. My head was already somewhere else, and by lunch, so was my heart. My teammates surrounded me like a wall in the cafeteria, shielding me from the stares, whispers, and cold looks from across the room. After school, Sam and I walked together toward the district office. A crowd had already formed outside, some holding pro-coach signs, others wearing blue ribbons that our team had handed out in quiet defiance. The tension was thick. Then I saw them. My parents were near the entrance. My dad was talking to a man in a suit, a board member. My mom was glued to her phone, her face tight and pale. And just behind them, standing tall and confident, was Coach Ryder, smiling, shaking hands, surrounded by supporters. He looked like he was attending a campaign rally, not a disciplinary hearing. My steps slowed. Sam reached over and squeezed my hand. "You've got this," she whispered. As we approached the building, my parents finally noticed me. My mom started walking toward us, arms half raised. But before she could reach me, Mrs. Chen stepped between us, cool and calm. "Not now, Karen," she said. "Lindsay needs to focus on her statement." My mom blinked like she'd been slapped. "She's my daughter! I have every right!" "You lost that right," Mrs. Chen said, "when you invited the man who hurt her into your home." We walked past them without another word. Inside, the boardroom was already filling. Principal Warner waved us to our reserved seats in the front row. She leaned in and spoke quietly. "There's been a development. 3 former students from Coach Ryder's past schools submitted statements. The board has them." I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a while. Hope. When the meeting was called to order, I turned and saw my parents slip into the back row. My dad stared at the floor. My mom, she looked at me with something unreadable. Sadness, shame, regret, I couldn't tell. The board president explained the format. Coach Ryder would speak first, then supporters, then those with concerns. The board would decide afterward. Coach Ryder walked up to the microphone like he owned the place. "I've dedicated my life to helping young athletes grow," he said, looking directly at me. "Sometimes that means pushing them past their comfort zone. Unfortunately, today's environment confuses intensity with misconduct." He talked about his track record, his methods, how he'd helped students earn scholarships, how he'd become a target because he held athletes accountable. Then his tone shifted. "I deny all allegations," he said. "These claims come from players who weren't meeting expectations, some of whom were about to be removed from the team." I clenched my fists. That was a lie. I was never close to being cut. I was already on the bench. Public humiliation was the punishment. After him came a string of supporters, mostly parents of boys, a few teachers, even 2 girls from our team, ones he'd clearly treated differently, saying they'd never seen anything out of line. Then it was our turn. Sam spoke first. Calm, direct, unwavering. Then Mia, then Jess. One by one, girls stood and described exactly what they'd seen and felt, each voice layering on another truth, another crack in the image he'd built. Finally, it was my turn. I stood. My knees felt like they could give at any second. I placed my paper on the podium, took a breath, looked up, and I saw them. My parents. Back row. But something had changed. My mom was crying silently. My dad looked stunned, like the room was tilting around him. Jake sat between them, his jaw set. Something inside me steadied. "My name is Lindsay Thompson," I began, "and I've been playing soccer since I was 5. Not because I loved it, but because it was expected." I told them everything, every stare, every comment, every moment where I had to pretend that humiliation was just coaching. I told them how my silence made me sick, and how breaking that silence nearly cost me everything. I didn't look at Coach Ryder. I didn't look at my parents. This wasn't about them anymore. It was about the truth. When I finished, the room was still. No applause, no gasps, just a heavy silence, like the room was holding its breath. I returned to my seat, legs trembling. The board president thanked everyone and called a short recess. People began to shift, stretch, whisper. Then I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned. Jake. He looked nervous, unsure, but his voice was steady. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. "Outside!" I hesitated, then nodded. Sam gave me a concerned look, but I nodded. "I'm okay." I followed Jake out into the hallway, nerves buzzing. We found a quiet corner near the water fountain, away from the noise of the boardroom. "What's this about?" I asked, folding my arms tightly. Jake looked worse than I'd ever seen him, pale, jittery, like he wanted to disappear. "It's about Coach Ryder and Mom and Dad." I waited. "Last night," he said slowly, "Coach Ryder came over. He was in the living room with them. I was upstairs, but I could hear their voices. They were arguing." My stomach tightened. "I came down to get water and I heard them talking about you," Jake continued. "Coach was saying they needed to get you under control before today. Said he's dealt with this kind of girl before." My skin went cold. "What kind of girl?" I asked, voice tight. "He didn't say it straight out, just said he had a system," Jake whispered. "That if he got the parents on his side, the girls always gave up eventually." Then he bragged about how an old investigation disappeared after he had a private talk with the girl who reported him. I couldn't breathe. "What did Mom and Dad say?" I asked, already knowing. "They didn't stop him," Jake said quietly. "They agreed, said they just needed to get you home. But then..." He hesitated. This morning something happened. Dad got a phone call, he freaked. Started yelling, kicked Coach Ryder out of the house. What? Why? I asked, stunned. I don't know exactly, Jake said, but I heard Dad shout something like, "There were police reports, you liar!" My heart jumped. Police reports? Had someone sent my parents the evidence? Before I could ask more, the doors to the boardroom opened. Time to go back in. Jake grabbed my arm. Lindsay, I'm sorry, I should have believed you. I didn't have words. I just gave a small nod and walked back in. When I sat down next to Sam, I noticed my parents had moved, now seated closer to the front, away from the coach's supporters. My mom's eyes were red. My dad looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. The board president called the meeting back to order. Then he cleared his throat. Before we begin deliberation, he said, we've received new information that must be addressed immediately. The room went still. Coach James Ryder, he continued, it has come to our attention that you were the subject of a police investigation at your previous school in Westlake. Is that correct? Coach Ryder stood fast. That was a misunderstanding. Resolved completely. Were you investigated for inappropriate conduct with students? The president pressed. The family withdrew the complaint, Ryder said quickly, the confidence gone from his voice. Their daughter was confused. Another board member cut in. We've reviewed police records filed by 3 separate families between 2018 and 2020. None of these reports were disclosed in your background check. Can you explain this? Gasps echoed. I turned to Sam, whose face mirrored mine, stunned disbelief. Coach Ryder began stammering, mumbling something about administrative errors and miscommunications. But no one was buying it anymore. I glanced at my parents. My dad was staring blankly. My mom had her hand over her mouth. The board president raised a hand. In light of this, and all the testimony heard today, the board will initiate a formal investigation. Effective immediately, Coach Ryder is suspended from all duties. This meeting is adjourned. It wasn't a final verdict, but it was real. He was out. As the room emptied, I saw Coach Ryder storming toward the exit, ignoring reporters and parents trying to stop him. A few of his remaining supporters trailed behind, confused and quiet. Then I spotted my parents moving toward me. Sam's mom appeared at my side instantly. Ready to go? Before I could answer, my mom stepped forward, her voice soft. Can we talk to Lindsay, just for a minute? Mrs. Chen looked at me. It's your call, honey. I nodded slowly. It's okay. I'll meet you at the car. She gave my hand a squeeze and walked away with Sam. I turned to face my parents. What do you want? I asked, echoing the same words I'd used with Jake earlier. My mom burst into tears. My dad looked lost, like he didn't know where to begin. A first for him. And for once, I was the one standing tall. For once, my dad, the man who always had something to say about how I should try harder, be better, act tougher, didn't have anything rehearsed. Lindsay, he finally said, voice rough. We owe you an apology. I stared at him, unsure I'd heard right. My dad had never apologized to me, not once in my entire life. This morning, he continued, we got an email, anonymous. It had police reports attached. My breath caught. 3 different girls from Westlake High. They'd all filed complaints against Coach Ryder. The descriptions, they matched what you told us. So that's what it took? You believe me now, I said quietly. Because someone else handed you the truth in a file. But not when I told you myself. We should have, my mom said, tears streaking her face. We were wrong, Lindsay. We thought we were protecting your future. My dad nodded. Your chances, college, scholarships. You thought I was lying, I cut in. You thought I wanted attention, that I was too sensitive, that his career meant more than me. They didn't argue. They couldn't. We want you to come home, my mom said gently. We understand if you're not ready, but when you are, your room is waiting. I didn't have an answer. Part of me wanted to yell to make them feel 1 ounce of what I'd carried for weeks, but I was just tired. I need time, I finally said. I can't pretend none of this happened. My dad nodded again. Take all the time you need. As they turned to leave, I called out, Who sent the reports? He shook his head. We don't know. It just said, Your daughter is telling the truth in the subject line. After they left, I stood alone in the half-empty boardroom, trying to absorb everything. Someone had stepped in. Not just for me, but for the truth. Outside, I spotted Sam and her mom waiting by the car. But before I could reach them, someone else caught my eye. Principal Warner leaning against her truck, ending a phone call. "Lindsay," she called out. "Got a minute?" I walked over. "I wanted to see how you were doing," she said. "Today was a lot." "I'm okay," I said, and for once I meant it. She gave me a knowing look. "I also wanted to mention, the board received the same email your parents did. Anonymous. Attached with the police reports." I tilted my head. "Do you know who sent them?" She adjusted her glasses, a small smile playing on her lips. "Let's just say, there are people in education who quietly keep track of colleagues who shouldn't be around students. For situations just like this. So she had helped. Maybe not directly, but she'd made sure the right people had what they needed. The important thing," she added, "is that the truth came out. Coach Ryder won't work with students again. Not here, not anywhere. I'll make sure of that." She gave my shoulder a gentle squeeze. "You did the right thing, Lindsay." And that took real strength. As she walked away, a strange feeling settled over me. Lighter, calmer. Someone had believed me enough to fight for me. I slid into the car next to Sam. "You good?" she asked. "Getting there," I said and smiled. The next few weeks were weird, like learning to breathe a different way. I stayed at Sam's another week. When I finally went home, my parents were different. Trying. My dad took down every soccer trophy from the living room without being asked. My mom stopped mentioning colleges or rankings. Coach Ryder was fired 2 weeks later. The assistant coach took over, and practices slowly became something I could actually look forward to. But the biggest surprise wasn't the team or my parents. It was me. Without pressure, without fear, I realized I didn't hate soccer anymore. Some practices were even kind of fun. I was still bad. But it didn't matter. One afternoon, after a scrimmage where I only tripped twice, Sam nudged me. "You don't actually like soccer," she said. I laughed. "Not really. Never have." She grinned. "Then what do you like?" No one had ever asked me that before. I thought about it. "Maybe photography. I've always liked taking pictures." "Well," she said, "the school paper needs a photographer. The last one graduated. You'd still be around us, just behind the lens." I talked to my parents that night. Told them I wanted to quit. I braced myself for arguments, but they just listened. My dad asked if I was sure. I said yes, and he said, "Okay, we'll help you get a decent camera." No guilt trips, no speeches, just support. The next day, I met with the newspaper advisor. She was thrilled. My first assignment, a soccer game. That Friday, I stood on the sidelines, camera in hand. Sam scored twice and waved at me after each goal. I got some great shots. It felt strange being on the outside looking in, but it didn't feel wrong. It felt like mine. After the game, the team crowded around, laughing and asking to see my photos. We were still close. I didn't need to play the game to stay part of it. As we walked toward the parking lot together, I spotted my parents near the car. My dad held my camera bag. My mom had brought snacks for the whole team. They didn't come over. They just waved and waited. They were trying. We all were. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe that was enough.